And then what I'm going to do is, if you've been in a webinar with me, I like to show you how you can do things, make it actionable, and move quickly. So we have a lot to cover today because there's so much new that came out at Inbound from HubSpot for Sales Hub, Commerce, all of that fun stuff. So I'm going to run through all of this. There's going to be lots of demonstrations inside of HubSpot. So no, you will not be looking at a slide deck the entire time. All right. So that is it for our tech check. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. So for those of you who I've probably met a lot of you before, but if I haven't met you before, I am Mandy Thompson. I am one of the co-founders at Digital Reach Online Solutions, and a big HubSpot lover and HubSpot advocate, and really excited to share all this information with you. So I work a lot with our clients and understanding what their needs are and how we can solve those needs with HubSpot and other tools. And so I get to see and work with a lot of these tools and see what's important to our clients, each week. And so I will be looking to relate everything I'm going through today with different business use cases. All right. So first of all, what I'd like to hear from you, before we jump on in, we're going to have our first poll popping up on that right-hand side. I would like to know, how many platforms do you currently use to prospect, track pipeline, forecast, sign contracts, and collect payments? So let's see what everyone has to say there, and then I'll go ahead and jump on it. So from first touch to first payment in one platform probably sounds impossible to a lot of people. How can you do that much in one place? Well, with the updates that HubSpot has rolled out, that is how you can do it. So here's what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover the changes that HubSpot made and how they have enabled people to really be able to go from first touch to first payment in one platform, the tools that you can use on that journey, okay, and important things to know about each of those tools and how to use them strategically, and then how those tools are going to improve outcomes for your company, and then how you will improve, and then also we'll have time for Q&A. So I see that a couple of you have answered that you have 4 to 5 tools, a couple 2 to 3, and one of you has just 1 tool. So the person with just 1 tool, awesome for you. For those of you with 4 to 5, hopefully we can show you some ways that you might be able to change that today. That is, if you want to change that. Okay. So now what I want to ask before we go any further, how many of you here attended Inbound and saw the new features roll out at Inbound? So please go ahead and answer that poll. Let us know how many of you are already familiar. But first thing I'm going to do is jump in and show the prospecting tool in HubSpot. So this is big news. For those of you who have seen it, you probably think it's amazing. For those of you who haven't, you will think it's amazing when you take a look at it. And I'm not going to go super in depth with this today, but what I am going to do is preview the tool, how it fits into this first touch to first payment strategy. And then at the end, we're going to share our next webinar coming up with Karen Sinnett, our account executive and HubSpot Sales Hub expert, who is going to be doing a webinar specifically on all of these new sales features and diving it deeper than I will today. Okay. So first thing we're going to talk about when it comes to prospecting is the new lead object. And the reason I say object is just for a couple of reasons. So what I would like to know, it looks like a few of you were at Inbound and saw these features, so that's awesome. So our next poll question is going to be, how many of you have turned on the lead object in HubSpot? Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to go over the features, the limitations, and the use cases, and then I'm going to jump into HubSpot and show some of these to you. Okay. So some things to keep in mind when it comes to the features is, you're going to have lead stages and lead stage categories. Just like when we previously with lifecycle stages, before HubSpot allowed us to edit them, you cannot edit some of the lead stages. So you can add additional stages, but there are some that you cannot remove, okay? They can be used in workflows. Leads have their own type of workflow, and leads are available as triggers or filters and can be impacted within contact or company workflows, okay? And this really helps with your handoff. And so you can create a lead that is attached to a contact or company, but it is not its own record, okay? So there's not a record page of leads like there is contacts and companies. Some other limitations come with the Salesforce sync and, organizing, right? Like you can't do it one-to-one with Salesforce, so please keep that in mind. Also, when you move a lead to qualified, you're required to create a deal when you do that manually. So you either have to work around that with a workflow, or you have to have the person who's creating the deal move it to qualified, okay? So some of the big use cases here, before I jump over to HubSpot to show this to you, something to think about here is, number one, if your reps are already prospecting in HubSpot, this is going to make their prospecting more powerful, right? But something that HubSpot has done here is they're going head to head with the big prospecting platforms. So now when you think about it, you're able to use HubSpot for prospecting and use that with another system like Salesforce. If you have your team managing pipeline in there, you can actually just use HubSpot for prospecting, which is super exciting. Now, of course, we would recommend you use it for both, but there are sometimes reasons that people don't want to do that or it does not work for them. And so we can use it for prospecting only, okay? So what I'm going to do here real quick is go ahead and jump in and show you a couple of features with leads. So here's what this looks like. So you can see on this upper right-hand corner, we have a lead associated with this contact, okay? And we can easily go ahead and update the status of the lead just by clicking right here, okay? So you'll notice when I click qualified, it wants me to create a deal. Something else to consider with leads is before you turn it on, these settings are going to automatically be on if you turn leads on, okay? So you want to make sure that you actually want to create leads for everybody who has a life cycle stage of lead, and that you want to set the life cycle stage of lead for anybody who has a lead attached to them, okay? So you want to make sure you have those set up. And then the other thing I want to show you here is your stages, right? So just, know that you can add a stage to these different stage categories, right? So not started is a category, in progress is a stage category, qualified is a stage category. Any stage that you add to qualified, when you move someone there, it is going to require you to create a deal unless you want to turn that feature off. And actually, that is something that's been updated since the last time I was in here. So forget what I said about having to create a deal. You can actually turn that off so that you're not forced to create a deal. However, if you do want to force people to create a deal, because we see lots of sales pipelines where people don't create deals early enough, then you are definitely going to want to use that. Okay, so that's what we have for the lead. So then we have our prospecting workspace, right? So this was a super exciting one. And what I would like to hear, we have another poll. Is your team using the prospecting workspace? Yes or no? So this is a brand new interface. And this is what I was talking about with HubSpot going head to head with the big prospecting platforms out there. Okay. So it's a new interface. It makes it easy to manage your leads. It makes it easy to manage your tasks, and it gives you an improved task player. So let me go ahead and give you a quick sneak peek of this. It's really easy. All you have to do is turn on prospecting. And then what you're going to see, right, is you're going to have all of your tasks here. You can move these up and down, right? So I moved leads to the top, but you can, move tasks to the top if you want that. You can toggle things open and closed. And then what we can see here is all of our tasks, right? So I know this is a lot of overdue tasks, but this is our demo portal. So I have a lot of overdue tasks in there from demos that we have done. So you can see all the different types of tasks that you have here. And then you can have the ones that are due today, that are overdue, and that are due tomorrow. So we can start all 5 tasks that are due today. And then what we're going to see is that this went ahead and popped up. And so we can go ahead, and what you can see here, this is a send an intro email. So you click on the email. There you go. It opens up for you to send an email. Just like with the old task player, if there's a template attached from a sequence, then that template will also be populated, okay? So we can just go ahead and check our tasks off here. And there we go. We just go ahead and move through the task player just like that. So this is a lot more intuitive than how the task player was, because we actually have all of our tasks in a list, so we don't have to do them in order. We can kind of see what's in front of us, and we have the record page on the right. And so it's much more intuitive to keep everything in front of you in a single view. So super exciting with the new prospecting workspace. Hopefully everyone's using it. If you haven't, I recommend going in there and checking it out, okay? And one other thing I wanted to mention on the prospecting workspace is also that you can work with all of your leads, right? So you can go in here and you can actually follow up with all your new leads attempting. You can go through them in order. And then your schedule is also plugged in here, right? So that's really exciting. You can go to your lead page and see all your leads. You can go to your schedule page, or you can go to your feed. So there you go. Lots of fun stuff that we can do in the prospecting workspace. So now I want to take a look at the improvements to forecasting. Now, this is not available yet, but it will be available soon. So we have another question in our poll. Are you using HubSpot forecasting already? Yes, no, or you're thinking about it, okay? So AI forecasting has not been released yet to a public beta, okay? But soon it will be. I would imagine in the next couple of weeks, okay? So this is improved forecasting. It gives you more predictable revenue, and I'll talk about more AI features in a second. But forecasting itself is a really great function in HubSpot, right? It gives you a lot of power. It gives you a lot of things that you can reference, right? Because you can go in, as you can see in the screenshot, you can see what your forecast submissions were. You can see the total amount you have in commit, and you can see what your overall pipeline is. And then you can dig into it further. I'll show you that in a moment. And that allows you to understand your forecasting. So you set goals for individual sales reps, you set goals for teams, you submit your forecasting, you can track how you're doing and track how much each month you were on or off based on what you forecasted. And that can help you predict for the future. So that's great. AI forecasting is going to give us something brand new, because we are going to be able to, with AI forecasting, leverage AI to look at our history of closed won deals, sizes, time they took, etc., close rates. And that's going to help us to determine, as you can see on the bottom of this image here, most likely upper and lower estimates of what we can expect from our forecasting. And what we're going to go ahead and do, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the webinar here, our marketing director of marketing, Karen Nichols, is going to go ahead and share a Loom video that shows you all of the steps for setting up regular forecasting. So it, takes setting up a few different things. So that's going to take you through that. All right. So what I'm going to go ahead and do here is another thing. I'm going to jump in and show you a couple things with forecasting, right? So with forecasting, you can see your forecast submission. You can see your closed one amount. You can see the gap, right? So our goal is 5 million and our forecast is 4.5 million, right? So for at the end of the month, right, it's the 28th of September. So if we see this and we see that we don't have any pipeline value right now and we don't have anybody in the commit category, right? Because forecasting works in categories. So if we don't have anyone in the commit category, then we're probably not going to hit our goal, right? Or we can look at it this way. You'll see here, everything looks the same at the top, but then we're actually looking at it by deal stage, and we can see what our coverage ratio is, right? So we do not have the coverage that we need to hit our goal. And so we know that we're not going to hit our goal. So we should update our forecasting. So that's a little bit of how forecasting works. The video can take you deeper into that, but this is just another way, right? The whole point of this is to see how HubSpot can take you from first touch to first payment in one platform. So we can manage leads now. We can do all of our prospecting in an intuitive, unified place. We can forecast the revenue, right? We can manage our pipeline. So we have all of these steps that we're able to manage directly inside of HubSpot. Okay. So other things that are coming with AI, I'm sure all of you have heard about it. AI is, 90% of what I see in my LinkedIn feed. There were a ton of sessions at Inbound about AI. So of course, there's the content assistant. There's going to be conversation summaries, and also other AI that, smart CRM, reporting. So a lot of AI functionality. Some of it'll impact sales, right? By helping you find leads, by helping you be able to prospect. There's a new LinkedIn connection coming in. So lots of other stuff that's going to be making selling in HubSpot even easier. But here are some of the other AI features that we can count on rolling out in the coming weeks, which is super exciting. All right, because that'll help you with your sequencing emails. That'll help you, like I said, with your prospecting activities, asking the CRM questions, all of that. So it makes it really easy to track everything. Another thing, now this is not a new tool, but there's an improvement that's been made to this tool, which makes it even more powerful, okay? So a few things have changed with sequences. One thing I don't have on the slide here, you can now access sequences in the mobile app, okay? So this is another thing, another good reason to check out Karen's webinar here in a couple of weeks is that you're going to be able to see how to be a productive sales rep in HubSpot, and that includes using the app. Karen uses the app all of the time, okay? But we now have A/B testing on sequences, and we also have sequence analytics, which is also super exciting. So let me go ahead and show this to you, right? So we can look at for a specific sequence, we can see all of these analytics at the top. So this didn't used to be there. So we can understand total people in the sequence, meeting booking rate, reply rate, open rate. This will give us an idea of how well our sequence is performing. But then we can actually go to the steps of the sequence. And let me go here. Okay. So now you can see that we can do A/B testing here, right? So we can see the difference between how one email template is performing against another email template. So this just gives us more ability to be able to take a look at our sequences and understand how they're performing, making it easier to make a decision about which ones we should prioritize, which emails work best in sequences, etc. So this is yet another way that we are staying in one platform to do everything that we need in HubSpot, whether we're sending sequences during the prospecting part or during the sales process with an AE. Okay, so now more. Call intelligence, right? This is another thing that people used to have to go to other platforms to get. HubSpot has call intelligence available in Sales Hub Pro, Service Hub Pro, Sales Hub Enterprise, Service Hub Enterprise. And so there has been some improvements to this tool. And so I want to call those out. Okay. So this is a tool that I do not see used nearly enough. It's very powerful because if you have an enterprise hub, you get AI track terms. AI track terms can trigger workflows. They can be reported on. You can notify people, right? If a track term is said, you can correlate that with, closed won deals to see what, AI track terms are coming up often when deals are closed won or when they're closed lost to understand where the conversations are not going the way that you necessarily want them to, okay? So some other things that are really helpful, though, with the call intelligence tool is the ability to comment in line, the ability to create playlists so you can have like a Hall of Fame to show people calls that are working really well with your clients. So I'm going to go ahead and jump in here, right? So we go to, under the contacts tab, we go to calls, and then we can see I filtered these down because this is actually our instance, so I don't want to have all of our calls here. But then what we can do is you can actually break down when you go into the HubSpot. If you haven't gone in call intelligence before, the AI automatically figures out who the participants are, who the associations should be based on those participants. And then you can actually go through and see segment by segment what each person has said, right? And so this person opening up the meeting said a lot, but there we go. We go from person to person here. So then when I click on this, I can actually comment in line on a specific part of the conversation, or I can have a general comment for the overall conversation in general, right? So you can go ahead and click through and find those different parts. It'll take you to those boxes, and then you can put your comments here. And then here are your AI track terms. So if you click here, it's going to show you everywhere in the conversation where you see that AI track term, and then you can navigate through those, and then you can add it to a playlist. Like I said, you can put it on a playlist for, Hall of Fame, whatever that is. So for your sales team, your CS team, it's easy for them to see that. And you can also clip that. So super cool. Again, keeps you in one platform, doing call intelligence, understanding all of these things that are working or not working, whether it's in the sales process, renewal process, QBRs, etc. So just another way that HubSpot is delivering all inside of one platform. Okay. So calling in general. So this is something that rolled out in the last couple of months. We actually have inbound calls, working hours, and voicemails now with HubSpot. And so again, rather than having to go to another calling tool for receiving calls, because we've always been able to dial out, now calls can come incoming. And so I'm going to show you this and where you can find those settings. Okay. And one thing on the AI track terms, my apologies, you can actually, I wanted to show you how you can use them inside of to trigger a workflow. Okay. And like I said, you can also use them in reporting. So for your calling settings, you have two different places where you have calling settings. Okay. So under this section, we can do our call configuration, and that's where we can decide what we're going to track, if we're going to require call outcomes, allow call recording, etc. But then under your user settings, this is where you can set your working hours. So you can determine when calls can come incoming to you in HubSpot. You can decide whether it forwards to a phone or it rings on the HubSpot browser and you just answer there. And then transcription and all of that stuff. But again, rather than having to dial out in HubSpot and then pick up a phone for incoming calls, everything can be done inside of HubSpot. And it's more of a marketing play, but it is being used for prospecting. We also have outbound texting available now. So just tons of fun stuff. So now let me go ahead and I'm going to jump on to the next feature. So this is one that's really exciting, and I might have missed a poll there. So Karen Nichols, if I missed a poll, if you can go ahead and put that there, I would appreciate it. Got so excited about all the features, I wasn't looking at my speaker notes, so I might have missed one. My apologies. Okay, so this one I am really excited about. So for a long time, meeting routing was always an issue when people had complex meeting routing needs. And this is where people would go outside to a tool like Chili Piper, because HubSpot has round robins and all of that. But if you needed a more complex conditional logic for what meeting page you wanted to show to a prospect, there were limitations there. However, not anymore. Now, this does require Sales Hub Enterprise in order to get this feature. Might also be Service Hub Enterprise. I need to verify that. Sorry that I do not know. Someone might be able to verify that in the chat. Okay. But this is a super exciting feature. So I'm going to go ahead and show this. And Karen Nichols has a poll here. Does this new feature fix your meeting routing woes within HubSpot? Okay. So you might need to see it first. So let me go ahead and show this to you. So previously when you created a form, so this is just a form, right? So previously when you created a form, you could display a thank you message. You could redirect to another page, but you could not redirect to a meeting scheduling page. See, this is new. So then we choose either to the same scheduling page or to conditionally redirect people to different scheduling pages, okay? So then what we could do, and this is really helpful for, I was working with someone a couple of weeks ago who wanted to put the payment link on a form and then allow somebody to schedule after they completed the form. So you could have a meeting page that's only accessible by this redirect. So you require the payment first and then you get the redirect, right? So super helpful. But if you look at this, you can set up multiple conditions, right? So if job title is this, if product's interested in is that, et cetera, et cetera. And then if someone doesn't meet any of the conditions, you have another scheduling page that you send them through. Or if they don't meet the conditions, maybe you don't want to give them a scheduling page, right? But this is super powerful. We can just keep setting up different conditions based on what we have inside of our form, and based on their answers, that will allow us to route people to different meeting scheduling pages. And those scheduling pages can be round robins, right? So if you have a group of reps for this ICP tier or a group of reps for that territory, then you can go ahead and send around robins or individual meeting pages. So again, another super exciting new feature. All right. So now that we've taken a look at that one, let's keep on moving. And we're going to take a look now at connected commerce, right? So the sales features are all really exciting. And it brings a ton of additional value to people who are already using HubSpot. And for people who aren't, it gives them a use case for getting into this awesome sales tool for prospecting that's really powerful, that has a whole bunch of really great stuff added to it that you have to pay for individually when you are working with other sales tools, right? So even if it's just for prospecting, that's great. Another thing I forgot to mention, because there are so many new features, you can now book meetings on behalf of other people as well. So for those who are prospecting, it makes it a lot easier. And again, they can choose from a round robin option too. That way you can have rotations if they have a rotation of people that the BDR or SDR need to book meetings for. All right, but now we're going to move on to something that is less understood in HubSpot, right? Because everyone knows CRM and sales, and HubSpot's been in that game for a long time. But the connected commerce game is new. And commerce and finance is something that's always kind of scary for people, right? Like, nope, we need to keep that all in, the finance department's hands. We don't want everyone else, involved in payments. But the reality is that creates a ton of friction. It creates a ton of friction for your team. It creates a ton of friction for your clients. It slows down getting payment. It gets you, you end up not making as much money because you missed opportunities to sell, and you spend a lot of time doing manual things. So the Commerce Hub, which is free to everybody, all right? So whatever HubSpot subscription you have the Commerce Hub. So you can use all of these tools inside of HubSpot, which is really awesome. I recommend picking at least one to try out after this session today if you have not yet, okay? So first thing I'm going to do, this is an oldie but a goodie, but it really ties into everything. So I want to spend some time here. So HubSpot quotes. I think that quotes are, and I think I did a video on this week. I think they are one of the most underappreciated and underutilized tools inside of HubSpot. The lack of people using quotes always surprised me because we can customize our quotes. We can add payment links to them. We can convert them into invoices. They pull in all of our line items. They are so dynamic and helpful. They can be used in workflows. They're stored as an artifact in HubSpot. We can do custom domains, but so many people do not use quotes. So we have a poll that we just dropped in there. Are you currently using HubSpot quotes? And so yes, no, thinking about it. And if you're not, I would love to see in the comments why you're not using HubSpot quotes, because it is a really powerful tool. So what I want to go ahead and do here is I'm going to show you some things that I think make quotes really, really awesome. Okay. So some of the things I think make them awesome, in addition to what I already shared, is that you can also, this isn't necessarily quotes, but with CRM extensibility, you can also bring other tools inside of HubSpot, right? So let's say you don't use quotes because you need to use, you need to use a tool like, NetSuite or another ERP or Workday. You can actually, with CRM extensibility, bring that interface inside of HubSpot so that you can actually create a NetSuite quote or sales order or purchase order, whatever it is, inside of HubSpot and send that over. So we have another poll question here. If you are not using HubSpot quotes, why, right? Because I see that we have one answer already using DocuSign or similar. So what I'm going to go through it and show you some reasons why I think you should be using quotes, okay? So, this is what a quote looks like, right? So like I said, we now have payment links on quotes. So you can send this to somebody, they sign it, and then they can click pay. And then it takes them directly to a payment link, right? So that's super helpful. So let's go ahead and take a look at, something here, right? So quotes, like I mentioned, they're super easy to make. So if you've never made one before, you can create your own custom template to make it look however you need it to look. So this is like a standard template, but you can customize this. Like ours has sections for all of our legal verbiage, et cetera, et cetera. So we're using that as our contract, right? So you can customize the URL, which is super fun. And then you choose when it expires. You can add all these comments to the buyer, right? You can add snippets here. You can add links, et cetera. So then we go over, it's really easy to choose. And based on who's associated with the deal, HubSpot's already going to suggest the contact and the company to associate. And then on your side, and then you add line items, super easy. You can set all of the things you need to about these line items, right? So you can make them, you can choose the product type, all the different information you need to add. And then what you can do, right? We get to this page. So if we want to use HubSpot payments and have an e-signature, there we go. We decide who our signers are on this quote, and then we choose which payment methods we want to accept. And there we go. Now we have a quote that's ready to go. All right. So that's easy. Everybody can sign it. Perfect. But then what we can do is we can actually, let me go ahead and do this. All right. I'm actually going to have to go here. So then we can convert our quotes into invoices as well. So I'm actually going to show you converting the quote into an invoice later, but there is a ton that you can do. So you can get paid on the quote, or you can convert it to an invoice and get paid on the invoice. And so they're super dynamic. It allows your sales team to get the contract. And if you add payment links, it allows them to get paid without having to wait for finance. And it's going to allow them to get paid within the context of what was on the quote. And then you also have quote approval. So let's say you're like, wait a second, Mandy, I'm not ready to just give our sales team permission to start creating payment links and sending them out. Well, you could allow them to attach a payment link to a quote, but require quote to get approval before it gets sent out, right? So then at least they can get everything set up, and all somebody else has to do is take a look at it, make sure their line items are right, that the pricing is right, that the terms are right, and then you can go ahead and let somebody pay. So that is super exciting, and it gives you a lot of flexibility, okay? So now let's take a look at the next tool, which is HubSpot Payments. We have a poll for this. How much do you know about HubSpot Payments? Have you used them a little? Have you tested them in multiple ways? Or did you not even know that HubSpot allowed you to collect payments? So HubSpot Payments and subscriptions are super powerful. There is now a Stripe integration. So instead of like, let's say you're using Stripe, but you want all the power of using HubSpot Payments and getting them into your quotes and into your invoices and tracking your subscriptions and seeing all your payment history, having that available in workflows, having it available in reporting, you can actually connect Stripe to HubSpot Payments and use Stripe. So you can either choose HubSpot as your credit card processor, or you could choose Stripe, okay? You also have ACH payments available, okay? So there's also a new update. There's no longer a payment required for a future billing line item. So HubSpot used to require for future line items that 50 cents was paid, and that's no longer required. So you can go ahead and have it set in the future, get the credit card information, and then it will charge accordingly when it should. And then we also have, when we're making payment links, we have add-ons, optional items, and a lot more. So obviously, this is a very, very fast overview of everything that the Commerce Hub could do. I do want to let you know that in about 3 weeks, we will be having another webinar specifically on the Commerce Hub and doing more of a deep dive and giving more examples and use cases and case studies and all of that fun stuff. So this is, again, high level, but we'll give you a time to jump into more. Okay. And what's coming next is programmable payment links, all right? So payment link API endpoints so that we're able to generate payment links dynamically, all right? So payment links are already a little bit dynamic, though, because when you put a payment link onto a quote or onto a invoice, it automatically creates a payment link that aligns with the payment amount that's due based on the invoice, okay? But let's go ahead and take a little bit more of a look at this. So I'm going to jump over here. So let's take a look at payment links, right? So if we take a look at this, we can see I created a test payment link here. So when you create a payment link, you select line items from the library. And let's just go ahead and select a couple of these because I want to show you some of the things we can do here, right? So here's what we can do. When we make a payment link, we can decide if an item is optional or not. We can allow the customer to set their own price. So if you're doing something like, like donations or somebody covering their credit card fee, et cetera, you can do that. You can allow them to edit the quantity. You can decide the billing frequency, whether it's going to be a fixed number of payments or automatically renew until somebody cancels, right? So let's say that this item's not optional. I'm going to add that one, right? But then let's go ahead and edit this one, and let's make this item optional, and let's let the customer set their own price, okay? So now I'm going to save that one. And then on this one, let's go ahead and allow customers to choose a quantity, okay? So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create that payment link, and we're going to take a look at this, okay? So that's how easy it is to make a payment link, right? So let's go ahead and copy this payment link that we just made. And let's take a look at it. There we go. So here's what we can see, right? This is not optional. This is not optional. This one lets us choose a quantity, so we do that. And then we can add that one and set our own price. Look at that. And there we go. All of that has been set up, and now they can see that they have a total of $12,500, and then they have recurring payments, right? This one is yearly, this one is monthly, and all of that is shown very clearly to the customer. So now they can go ahead, put their credit card or ACH in, and they can pay us. Yay, getting paid is fun. That is good. All right. So checking this one out as well, here's another example where we can remove something. And so right now it shows, right, $4,000 in right now payments and then future payments, because we have a future date in this payment link for when this one is going to start, because you can also do that. You can set a custom date for when line items are going to start. And then you can use payment links in forms, meetings, emails, and on your website. And they are just super easy to use. And one other thing that I wanted to show you as well is that you can also add payment links directly to a contact record or a company record or a deal record. So if you add this here, then it's going to associate that payment here. So we can either create a new link or we can go ahead and add an existing payment link. And there we go. Now that is appended to that record. And we'll see when the payments come through. So then when the payments come through, they'll show up right here. So right now we see we have those 2 payment links added here. And then when those are paid, they'll show up. All right. So now on to invoices. All right. So lots of fun stuff with payment links. I'm super excited. If you haven't used them, I definitely recommend just going in and playing around with payment links. You don't even have to send one out, but definitely see what they can do. All right. So now invoices. This one is really exciting because this is what brings HubSpot to a place where we can get full revenue visibility inside of HubSpot. Also helps with our finance and our commerce. And it's also going to allow us to use HubSpot as a CPQ. All right. So let's go ahead and take a look at this. I mean, you could use HubSpot as the CPQ without invoices, but invoices really help. Okay. So we can create invoices in HubSpot and we can attach payment links to invoices. So we have another poll. What system do you use currently for invoicing? So we're going to go ahead and drop that in there, and I'd love to see what your answers are. Okay. So another thing about invoices is that I want to talk about what's coming next. Okay. So what is coming next for invoices is there is going to be a sync between HubSpot invoices and QuickBooks invoices. So when you create an invoice in HubSpot, it'll create the invoice with the same number. In QuickBooks, when you set up invoices, you can decide what number range it'll start from. Okay. So then if the invoice gets paid in HubSpot with HubSpot payments, it'll also show up in sync as paid in QuickBooks. So that'll remove the work of having to do that. It'll remove the need to have to manually enter that information. You won't have to use the QuickBooks workflows or anything like that. You could still use them if you are, but it will automatically sync that. And then HubSpot has other financial systems, ERPs, and accounting system on the roadmap as well. So there's going to be a lot of power in being able to get a quote signed, right? First touch and first payment, get a quote signed, convert the quote to an invoice, which there's also going to be invoice automations coming as well. So the invoices get sent automatically in line with what is in the quote and what is on the line items. Okay. So think about that, like not having to worry about setting that up in your contract management or deal management system. All of that will happen automatically. So then imagine that your sales rep sends a quote, it gets signed, we automatically generate the invoice, we put the payment link on there, we send that out, it automatically gets synced with QuickBooks, and all finance has to do is reconcile everything when it comes in, right? So that is super easy. Something else that you can think about with invoices is when you have sales reps who are paid based on money that has actually come in, knowing, and this could be through invoices or through payments, when that payment comes in, you can tie that in and use calculations in order to know, so in order for your sales reps to know how much money has actually come in the door, right? Because some sales reps are paid by money in the door, not necessarily the contract, right? So that is available. And then the reporting capabilities. So I'm going to jump over and show you some things with invoices and the reporting capabilities. But when you think about this, what is possible now with the reporting capabilities is that you can see your forecasting, you can see your recurring revenue. Recurring revenue reports are available in Sales Hub Enterprise. You can see all of your deals, weighted pipeline, all of that stuff, but then you can actually see all of your cash flow, right? Like how much am I set to invoice? Not necessarily on recurring payments, those are subscriptions, but how much am I set to invoice for the next 12 months? In this month, how much have I invoiced? How much will I invoice? How much is overdue, right? With our recurring payments, how much is coming in? How much is churning? How much is new money versus recurring money? So it's going to give you a full picture on everything going on financially within a single dashboard in HubSpot if you choose to set one up. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at this. So this is what an invoice looks like, right? So we can see this. And again, you can have the payment link on it, just like we did for the quote. So there you go. It takes them right to the payment and they can pay that invoice. Super easy. So let's take a look at how this works a little bit more in depth. So we can do this a couple of ways, okay? So if we want to add invoices, invoices are added at the deal level, right? So if we went to a deal from a contact record, and then we went ahead and wanted to add an invoice, we could create a blank invoice or we could add an existing invoice, right? So, and just to show you here, invoices are available under sales. So right, there we go. And they're even putting it under here is showing that HubSpot wants your sales team to be enabled and be able to bring revenue in faster, more, increasing revenue, saving time, okay? So now let's go ahead and take a look at the different ways you can make invoices, right? So we can go ahead and just create one. So if you go to create blank invoice, there you go. You can add your contact, add your company, choose the PO number, all of that fun stuff. You can add line items to it and add your payment links, all of that stuff. And there's also some advanced settings here, right? So you can go ahead and set up your invoice. You can set your content slug so that you make it personalized, exciting. So now let's take a look at this. Let's say you already have a quote that has been, completed. So we want to go ahead and convert that quote to an invoice, right? So we could just take that quote, convert it into an invoice. And there we go. We already have all the contacts. We already have all the dates. We already have all the terms, the line items and everything. All we need to do is finalize it. There we go. Now let's go ahead and copy this link and put that here. And we have an invoice. And now we can report on this invoice, right? The invoice date and the due date is the 28th of September. So that's going to be added to our reporting, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look at this. So what does a dashboard look like that actually has all this stuff in there? So if you're going to do the recurring revenue report, it's in its own interface. So you actually have to iframe this in, but we can actually see our recurring revenue for each month, right? How much we have, how much we lost, how much we gained. So that's one financial view. Then we can also see, like I said, our deal forecast, weighted pipeline, forecast totals. And then when we get the AI forecasting, we'll be able to bring that in as well. So we can go ahead and look at, what's going on, what can we expect to see happen here, right? Understanding where our pipeline is at. And then we can go ahead and see all of our invoices, right? So now when we take a look at this, we can actually see the count of invoices that we have, or we can actually see the amount that is owed for those invoices. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this because I believe that we have the amounts in here now. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this. Okay, right, so we can see we have this much to invoice in each of these months. That's going to help us predict what our cash flow is based on what we've already sold. So this is going to be your invoices. Now, if you set invoices up for all of your recurring revenue, then those will show up as well. Or you could say, okay, this is my project revenue that I have going. And then up at the top here, I have my recurring revenue. And that will allow you to see where's my cash flow at, where our deal's at, and really be able to assess where your company is at from a financial standpoint. All right. So that was a lot. We went through a lot of features here. So I'm going to go ahead and get this wrapped up. Okay, you can also use custom coded actions in the operations hub to recognize, to report on recognized and deferred revenue. Okay, also super important for a lot of organizations. So Commerce Hub brings you so many things. And like I said, in a couple weeks here, 2-3 weeks, we're going to have another webinar and dive deeper into this. So here's what I recommend. Choose a feature or two to start with. Obviously, we covered a lot today. Create a plan for the new features that you're going to use, and then make sure it fits into your existing process, especially if you're looking at something like the lead object. You're getting started on the prospecting workspace. That's not a big change necessarily. It is a change, but it's not going to change your infrastructure. Using leads will affect it. So make sure that you have a plan. Same thing if you're going to start using payment links, or if you are going to start using HubSpot invoices, okay? So what's next? So you can go ahead and either scan here, or Karen is going to put in the left-hand corner there. You can go ahead and register for boosting sales efficiency with HubSpot's prospecting workspace. So Karen is going to be running that. And then our next webinar is the webinar that's going to be coming up after that one is CRM customizations with Basho. So he's going to teach you about CRM extensibility and how to customize your CRM. The Commerce Hub deep dive. And then for those of you in marketing operations, I will be speaking on using iPass to build a coder's mind and work better with developers at Mopsapalooza. That's going to be in Anaheim from November 5th to November 8th. So if you want more information from that, please do let me know. And we look forward to seeing you there. So that's all that I have for today. If you are not connected with me on LinkedIn, you can go ahead and scan there and get the QR code. And then we have one last poll here, which is, how was the webinar? Informative and engaging, confusing, A and B? Ask me tomorrow, or I want to get going right now. So what I want to see, yep, nope, that is a really, really good point, Karen. I saw that there. So if any of you did not see that, we actually use, when quotes are closed we have a Zap that's built. So we have a Money Ballers channel in Slack. So when we close a deal, triggered by when a quote is signed, then that triggers a whole recipe of things in Zapier that chooses the gifts, puts it in Slack and all that fun stuff. So like Karen said, good time. But if anybody has any questions, please do drop your questions into the chat. I'll be happy to answer them. If you don't have any questions, because I answered them all, awesome. I really hope that this was helpful for you. I hope that it gives you a good preview of everything that's available and why those things are important. And I hope that this was able to show you, what we aim to communicate, which is that you can do everything first touch to first payment inside of HubSpot without having to leave.